The mountains held their secrets close. Coldwell, nestled amongst them, seemed untouched by time. Days were marked by the sunrise over the peaks and the quiet hum of crickets at night. The townsfolk, weathered and strong, knew the mountain's moods. They knew its whispers, but there were some secrets the mountain kept hidden, even from them. Life in Coldwell was peaceful. It was a town where everyone knew their neighbour. The air itself seemed different in Coldwell, crisp and clean, carrying the scent of pine and earth. Then came the morning the silence fell. It was a Tuesday. The sun rose as it always did, painting the mountain peaks with hues of orange and gold. But something was different. The usual sounds of life were absent. There was no rooster's crow, no murmur of conversation, no laughter of children. There was only silence. A heavy, unsettling silence that seemed to press down on the town like a shroud. Panic spread quickly. It started with a knock on a door that went unanswered. Then another and another. Soon the entire town was in an uproar. People rushed from house to house, their faces etched with fear and confusion. But everywhere they looked, the result was the same. Empty rooms, cold hearths, meals left half-eaten on tables. It was as if the town had simply vanished into thin air. The search parties spread out. They combed the woods, calling out names into the unyielding silence. They scoured the surrounding mountains, their hopes dwindling with each passing hour. The Devil's Road. The name itself sent shivers down the spines of the locals. It was more than just a road. It was a scar on the landscape, a jagged wound in the heart of the mountains. Some whispered that it was a portal, a gateway to another dimension. Others claimed it was a cursed path, leading only to madness and despair. The road was treacherous. It twisted and turned, rising steeply into the mountains. The trees that lined its edges seemed to reach out with grasping claws, their branches tangled and gnarled. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Theories about Coldwell's disappearance were whispered like ghost stories around campfires. Some blamed the government, whispers of secret experiments, of mind control, of a town snatched away for some nefarious purpose, circulated like wildfire. They pointed to unmarked helicopters spotted in the days before the disappearance, to strange lights in the sky, to the sudden silence from the otherwise chatty military base miles away. Others spoke of older, darker forces at work. The land, they said, was cursed. Native American legends spoke of a malevolent spirit that resided in the mountains, a being of immense power that demanded respect, even fear. Had the people of Coldwell angered the spirit somehow? Had they disturbed its slumber? Was their disappearance a punishment for some ancient transgression? The truth, whatever it was, remained elusive. The authorities, after a perfunctory investigation, wrote it off as a mass hallucination, a case of collective hysteria. Years passed, the memory of Coldwell faded, becoming another ghost story in a long line of Appalachian mysteries. But the legend of the Devil's Road persisted. And then, one day, someone returned. He was a young man, barely more than a boy, when he had set out on his motorcycle, determined to conquer the Devil's Road. He wanted to prove the stories wrong, to show that it was nothing more than a spooky legend. He had been gone for 3 days. When he stumbled out of the woods, his eyes wild, his clothes torn, he was barely recognizable. He didn't speak much, not at first, but slowly, haltingly, he began to tell his tale. He spoke of a fog that descended upon him, thick and disorienting. He spoke of the road stretching on endlessly, twisting and turning back on itself. He spoke of seeing figures in the fog, shadowy figures that seemed to beckon him forward. And then he spoke of a town The town, he said, was just like the pictures of Coldwell. A year later, a team of scientists from a prestigious university arrived in the area. They were drawn by the stories, by the whispers of the unexplained. They came armed with instruments, with theories, with a thirst for knowledge that outweighed their fear. They were determined to understand the truth behind the Devil's Road, to separate fact from fiction, to shine a light into the darkness that had consumed Coldwell. They set up camp near the start of the road, their equipment humming with the promise of discovery. They placed sensors, they took readings, they mapped the terrain with meticulous precision. They were confident, they were prepared, they were wrong. Their expedition, once so full of promise, ended in disaster. Two of the scientists disappeared without a trace, vanishing into the woods as if they had never been. The remaining members of the team, shaken and terrified, abandoned their research and fled back to the safety of civilization. The scientists' disappearance served only to deepen the mystery of the Devil's Road. Today, the Devil's Road remains. It winds its way up into the mountains, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. The town of Coldwell is nothing more than a memory, a ghost town swallowed by the wilderness. The truth of what happened that night remains elusive, a puzzle with missing pieces, a question mark etched into the landscape itself. Was it a natural disaster, a mass hallucination, a government experiment gone wrong, or was it something else entirely? Something ancient and evil, lurking in the shadows of the mountains, waiting to claim its next victims. The silence of the mountains offers no answers, but the wind whispers through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of laughter, of screams, of a town that once was, and somewhere, deep in the heart of the mountains, the Devil's Road waits. A silent, winding path, leading not to a destination, but to a question that haunts the dreams of those who dare to remember the town that disappeared.